Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith Rose Howard, and I've been leading Deloitte's global social and digital media team for the last 5.5 years. I have also always sort of fancied myself a bit of a trend junkie. I'm fascinated with how trends come about and how companies like ours, Deloitte, and others respond to those trends. And really, given what's transpired over the last year and our newfound reliance on technology and digital to do our jobs, to connect with others, and drive business forward, really, it's more important than ever that we as companies take a really hard look at our current digital practices and assess if we are truly optimized for success. So today, in our time together, I hope to share with you a glimpse of what our current digital landscape looks like for B2B marketers and provide you with some key takeaways for the year ahead. So let's jump right into what we want to share today and talk about the meat of this presentation. So this year, Deloitte published their annual Global Marketing Trends Report, which surveyed executive level marketers in the months following the pandemic. And I wanted to share findings that I think really speak to how much brand response and specifically agility have influenced consumer behavior, right? Number one, almost 4 in 5 people surveyed could cite a time when a brand responded positively to the pandemic, and 1 in 5 strongly agreed that it led to increased brand loyalty on their part. Similarly, more than 25% of those who noticed brands acting on their own self-interest, so maybe exercising a bit of tone deafness, right, in response to the pandemic, those respondents actually walked away from those brands. And then finally, 58% of respondents could recall at least one brand that quickly pivoted to better respond to the needs of their customers, and 82% said that led them to actually doing business with that brand. So what do all these stats mean? It really, at the end of the day, you can no longer phone it in as a brand. There's a precedent for brands to act responsibly and that their marketing efforts should really reflect that, right? Now, the report also cited a number of things or areas of focus really that we should concentrate on as marketers and as a way to respond to the trends that we're seeing in today's environment. And so I see them as these 3 main areas. So if you take anything away from this presentation, I want you to have these 3 areas really in the back of your mind when it comes to marketing. Number 1, humanness, right? Your customers should see themselves in the experience, collateral, messaging, story that you're providing them, right? This is why inclusivity and social impact have become such a critical part of marketing in the B2B space. That is what humans currently care about, especially after the global pandemic. And so humans want to know that brands care too, right? So designing for connection instead of efficiency. Creating experiences and content that elicit emotion, right? And response from humans, not other brands. Agility, right? Iterate, test, and then iterate again. That is the only way to keep up in today's environment. There should be more of an emphasis on proactive social listening, looking at what's out there in the marketplace and then responding right away. And then finally, trust, right? This idea of leading with transparency, using data responsibly, and honing in on the values of your customer, as opposed to treating your customers like dots on a graph or different demographic and interest groups, right? Hone in on the values and let that drive your marketing forward. So as we spend the next few minutes talking about more specific trends, I would ask that you keep these 3 things in mind as what you need to start implementing as marketers or business owners for your own marketing efforts. So let's talk a little bit about those trends, what we're seeing. I'm going to focus my presentation a bit more today on social platforms. And the reason for that is because, believe it or not, 92% of B2B marketers say social is their number 1 marketing channel. I'm curious if a lot of you agree with this, right? I certainly do from Deloitte's perspective. And this is significantly up since the pandemic. Similarly, so is the adoption of these social channels on LinkedIn. Since COVID-19, 55% increase in activity on the LinkedIn platform. There's been a 23% increase in people logging into Twitter and scrolling and consuming content on Twitter. Pinterest has seen a 60% increase in searches of content on their platform. And then 50% increase on Instagram and Facebook in engagement on those two platforms. So across the board, we're seeing a ton of consumption and adoption of these platforms. So let's look at specifically what those trends look like for a minute, okay? Number one, brands are posting less and people are posting more. These two individuals both represent brands, right? But they're actually employees posting more. In fact, C-suite executives said that they've increased their presence on social media since the pandemic, 67%. So we're seeing this emphasis more, especially in the B2B space, that employees now take sort of the responsibility that was once on branded channels as their own, right? And that's a good thing, right? It speaks to that humanness factor, right? We're putting people at the forefront of our brand as opposed to our just branded channels as it's been historically. Number two, similarly, user-generated content is taking center stage. Before, we used to travel around the world and capture content from all over the world, right, for our brand. Or we could at least go to the next town, or people would be out and we could capture really amazing content. We can't do that anymore, right? So this idea of crowdsourcing content for the purposes of brand messaging and brand story has really taken a forefront, and it's become a critical element of brand storytelling. So how are you using other collated and crowdsourced content to tell your story? Number three, we've seen advertising decrease actually, but the ROI on advertising across digital and social platforms has increased, frankly, because there's less competition, right? Brands have decided to take a little bit of a step back and not spend as heavily on these platforms, but they're getting a lot more bang for their buck. So advertising with integrity and responsibly is critical, knowing that you may actually get a higher return on investment. There's a shift from exclusive in-person events, what we're doing right now, right, to more inclusive live content. God, this is so meta, right? We're speaking directly to what's happening right now on this, of me presenting at this conference. Gartner is a great example of this. You can see Gartner's list of in-person conferences last year. They shifted their entire strategy to doing live content on LinkedIn almost weekly. And they're actually reaching a lot more potential customers and people. So leveraging live, leveraging the virtual experience for what historically has been in person is a big trend that we're seeing. Learning tools. So in addition to LinkedIn's platform being more adopted generally, LinkedIn reported that there's a 3-time increase in the usage of LinkedIn Learning, which speaks to that a lot of people during this pandemic are consuming more educational content. They're going back and getting certifications. So if your brand can incorporate learning into its marketing strategy, this is a really pivotal entry point for a lot of customers. And then finally, personalization and segmentation take center stage. Brainshark is a great example of this. They started leveraging personalized messages inside their product demos to really expand the use of the platform. They found that prior to doing this, people were signing up for free demos, but not actually using it. So they started incorporating personalized messages into their product demos. Also, LinkedIn organic targeting, this idea that you can actually target specific segments of your customers on LinkedIn via organic posting is something that a lot of brands don't take advantage of, but you can. And so when you think about creating a really wonderful piece of marketing collateral or campaign and then creating different segments and catering the message to that, that's how you really win in this environment, right? Now, Those are the trends we're seeing, right? Those are the key things. But regardless of trends, I think it's important to understand our unique task at hand as when it comes to our marketing efforts. And that's really to provide users with exponential value at every touch point of your brand. So let's examine that a bit. And that's all about winning in a post-COVID world. So if you have that main goal of providing as much value to your customer and community as possible, the role of digital is really threefold, and it ties to those three key areas of focus. Number one, meeting your customer where they are, right? Speaks to humanness. The reason this is so pivotal now is because engagement across digital platforms is up across the board. It's higher than it's ever been in years, right? Number two, optimize your content strategy, right? Speaks to trust. Why now? Because the demand for good and relevant content is at a premium, right? There is a lot of noise in this space, so you want to be the signal that people are paying attention to in that noise, and a trustworthy signal. Number three, the role of digital is to listen and respond in real time. This speaks to agility. And why is this so important now? Because trending conversations and topics are being discovered and shared first on digital platforms. So you being there and listening to what's going on there is critical to your success. So when I say be human, focus on growing platforms, not conversions, right? Partner with micro influencers or employees or executives to build discoverability. Use those human platforms. Hyper target your content, right? Leveraging LinkedIn organic targeting or posting through community forums, groups, or direct messages. And never let a comment go unaddressed, right? Continuing that human to human connection. Be trustworthy, right? Go live, be transparent, let it all out there, right? Anything could happen right now. Opt for learning versus showing, right? So rather than showing what you can do as a brand, create a learning experience for your users so that they can really dig in to the product or into the service so they know what they're getting, right? Leverage new platform features to boost your content. So this is something that a lot of brands don't do, but leveraging some of that in-platform or new features that platforms are launching all the time helps you sort of examine how you can leverage those platforms better. And it makes those platforms prioritize your content and your brand. There's actually synergy there, believe it or not. And then finally, be agile. So listen to the conversations in your industry to help inform what the demand for conversation is, right? Use listening to inform gaps and white space where you could add value with content. And most importantly, make this a daily practice. So if I'm to leave you with a few key takeaways in our last couple minutes together, assume that your target audience's experience from brand discovery to conversion will most entirely be driven by digital behaviors. Let those behaviors inform your social media channel and content strategy, or really any digital channel strategy, right? Take advantage of creating real-time and live content related to trending topics and relevant industry conversations, right? Be agile, be human. And then finally, focus your efforts on building community through these channels and learning rather than just showing and selling, right? Remember, brands can no longer phone it in. This is super important. And then I'm going to leave you with this last quote that I really love. We need to stop interrupting what people are interested in and be what people are interested in. Craig Davis, who's the co-founder and CMO of Sendle, wrote that. And I think that really speaks to overall what we're seeing as a precedent for brands in this new environment and hopefully for the year to come. With that, I think with about 30 seconds left, I'm going to leave you, but I would love to stay connected and continue to talk trends. I do post quite regularly on my LinkedIn about this type of content in these focus areas. So do stay connected with me on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. But it was an absolute pleasure to share with you the state of digital marketing in a post-COVID world.